This podcast is brought to you in association with VM Finance. VM Finance funds development and investment opportunities for residential, commercial and mixed-use properties and provides tailored support and innovative financing solutions to help you realise your vision and achieve your goals. To find out more about VM Finance, visit their website vmfinanceltd.com. Hello and welcome to Scheming, the Place North podcast that gives property folk a platform to talk about three schemes they think about a lot. I'm your host, Dan Whelan, Deputy Editor of Place Northwest. Whether it's amazing feats of endurance or transforming unloved buildings into vibrant new spaces, today's guest is always up for a challenge. Joining me today to talk about the three schemes that she thinks about a lot is Michelle Rothwell, founder of Watch This Space. Michelle, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, and thank you for the invite.
You're more than welcome.
Delighted to be here.
Excellent. So I mentioned there your amazing feats of endurance in the intro. You're the first world record holder we've had on this podcast, so congratulations.
Thank you.
For people who aren't aware, and because it's a few years ago now.
Are you trying to say I'm past it?
I think that's fair. I wasn't saying that.
Last year I did a big feat as well. Just because I didn't get a world record last year doesn't mean you have to put me in the past.
Well, I have no world records, so you're winning on that front. So tell me, and tell the listeners as well, about your world record, first of all, and then we'll get on to what you're doing currently.
Which one?
You have two, that's right. Tell us about the one you're most proud of.
My world record I'm most proud of was I ran from London, the Marble Arch, to Dover. I swam across the channel and I cycled to Paris to finish. Was my biggest one. So it was a 87-mile run straight into the water for a 22-mile direct swim, but I actually swam 32 miles with tides, and then it was I can't even remember, a 200-mile cycle to finish. But that actually was not my proudest part of the world record. My proudest part is getting to the finish about 8 p.m. and there's an ambulance there, and you're exhausted, you need to recover. And I said, that's not Michelle Rothwell. I said, I don't need that. And then I went out partying on the Champs-Elysees till 3 a.m. until I was forced to go to bed. So
oh my God.
I feel like that was a prouder moment for me than actually getting the world record itself.
Absolutely. So it was a quadrathlon in the end. So
yes.
You had the bike, the swim, the run, and then the partying. And how long did that take you?
That was 92 hours non-stop.
Non-stop?
Yeah.
That is just, and this is a serious event. I mean, there was a guy a few years ago who passed away doing this event. This is a serious thing, a serious feat of endurance. How did you train for that, alongside working as well? So
training for something like the Arch to Arc or the Bob Graham, which is a big race I completed last year. A lot of it's obviously physical training and going out and running marathons and climbing and doing all body fitness, but most of it's actually in your head. So for me it'd be like getting to bed at 11 o'clock, getting up cozy, pitch black winter, snowing outside, and then setting my alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning to go out for a 4-hour run and then getting back in. So a lot of it was all about training your mind to be at the hardest of stages. So I actually, when I got into the channel, which I'm not actually, believe it or not, a very good swimmer. Most people swim the channel in 12 hours. It takes me about 19. I'm like floating and struggling for survival. Most of it was like, right, I've prepared my head for this day. I've been in ice baths for 2.5 hours, sitting there absolutely freezing, and my mind was ready. So yeah, there's a lot of physical preparation, but to me more it was a mental game of getting ready for that.
Yeah. I read somewhere that you, in preparation, you didn't wear a jacket all winter.
Oh yeah,
you just went out in a t-shirt
for ages, which is actually quite funny now because there's a tiny bit of cold and I am fully winter jacketed up. I think I've put myself off being cold forever. I'm a real warm weather climate, and I think like those 2 years of never wearing a jacket and just being cold all the time has really put me off just being cold in general.
That is just absolutely crazy. I think in the property industry, there's a lot of people who do this sort of thing, isn't there? There's keen cyclists and runners and lots of very fit and healthy people in the property industry. Why do you think that is? Is that a property thing?
Yeah, health, fitness. Well, I think it absolutely fits in. People that work in property seem to be quite good team players, and I think team players seem to link quite well with the sporting industry. I actually put down, sorry to blow my own trumpet again, this isn't like me, but I do want to pitch this. I think Place Northwest was involved at the time. I actually did a cycle race, in a property cycle race, which started at City Tower. And that probably is actually one of my favourite ever races, because I turned up and, like you say, everyone in property, there's a lot of fit people. Everybody rocked up. They had the Rafa jackets, Rafa trousers, 20-gram bikes. And I turned up, I had a white T-shirt with a picture of a bike on it and just some shorts and just like, my bike's nothing fancy, just a bike. And I get to the start line and I said, oh, please can I have one of them maps? You know, because it was around Altrincham, a big route. And the person on the start line said to me, you don't need a map, you just follow the boys, because I was the only girl in the race. And honestly, I saw red and I was like, I can't believe someone said that. So I casually just said, I'll just take a map, you know, just in case.
Just follow the boys. Yeah. That's upsetting.
And I'm not joking, for the full 3 hours of the race, it was a huge one. I never said anything. I just said, okay, I'll take one in case. I cycled so hard that honestly at Verges, I thought I was going to pass out. Like, I remember at one point, like, you know, my eyes went white and I was like, I keep going. I couldn't breathe. I was like hyperventilating, but I was like, I am going to win this race. And I did win the race. And
wow.
And
amazing.
I came back into City Tower and there probably was about 45 cyclists in the race. And I remember everyone looking at me like, has this girl actually with a white T-shirt with a picture of a bike on it just beating all these property cyclists? And that's got to go down as one of my biggest successes.
Yeah, I'd put that above the Arch to Arc, to be honest. That's amazing.
Honestly, if people ask me, I do think of that race straight away because I just remember how much effort I put into it.
And what about at the moment? Are you
Plays actually wrote about it.
Oh,
it was
really?
a Place event.
Before my time, but I'll have to go back into the archives and have a read of that. What are you doing at the moment then in this space in terms of endurance? Are you training for anything in particular? How do you sort of keep ticking over?
I just, you know, I don't have a set training plan. I just look at a big event and I think, yeah, that's for me. So I've got a little 4, 5 and 6-year-old kid, so I've been a bit soft over the last few years. And then last year I got back and I did a huge challenge, which is called the Bob Graham, which is a big round in the Lake District you have to do in 24 hours, which I did in 22:12 and beat all my mates that I know that had done it. Not that it matters, everything in life's not a competition, but I was out.
It sounds like it is.
And I like to look at things that, you know, people don't think are possible and think I'm going to give that a go. So I've got something big I'm planning. I've actually just slipped 2 discs in my back. I've just recovered.
Oh, really?
So I'm going a bit slow, but I'm hoping that maybe next year is going to be one of my biggest years.
Amazing.
All going well to plan.
Watch this space.
Absolutely.
Watch this space. Okay. You're not here to talk about feats of endurance, although I've enjoyed that part. We're here to talk about your 3 schemes. So, as you know, this podcast is called Scheming. We like to talk about 3 projects, 3 schemes that you think about a lot. So, the one you're most proud of, the one you wish you had done, and the dream project. Michelle, what's the scheme that you're most proud of?
You know what, I'm proud of all my schemes. You know, even ones that have been a real struggle, the builders have gone into, you know, liquidation and you've had to fight for survival. So every scheme's been different and every, you know, being genuinely honest, I'm proud of everyone and it's real. Every scheme has shaped our business and every scheme is completely different. Yeah. You know, we don't have a set model and we go and replicate it. We come up with an idea, a building, a community, and we think what's best in this location. So everyone I'm proud of, but I'll just tell you one I'm working on right now because the latest one where we're on site and that's imminently finishing is that we bought a old biscuit factory in the Lake District. It's about 16,000 square foot. The building was going into liquidation. No one knew what to do with it. It tried to work as offices, but it hadn't been a success. And it's quite in the middle of a residential area, but yeah, the building had just sat there kind of dying. And that's what we like. We like to go in and think, God, you're a great spot. You're not far from Windermere. You've got a 16,000 square foot building. There's got to be something.
Yeah, it's sizable in that area, isn't it? There's probably not that many opportunities around there of that size.
Yeah, it was a real big building for it. Yeah. So
how did you come across it?
The majority of stuff we've come across is off market.
Okay.
This was actually someone we know in Manchester that was selling it. It was a landlord that had got hold of it that was selling it, but 80% of stuff we've bought has been off the market. Okay. I like the chase. I like the hunt. And sometimes when it's on the market, you think, oh, it's not as exciting as that hunt for finding stuff. But anyway, this
goes back to your competitive streak again.
Yeah. When someone else is all looking at you, think, nah, it's not as fun.
Yeah.
This was somebody we knew in Manchester that was selling it, and we bought the building without actually having a set plan. And actually, I'm not joking, that's what we do with most of ours. We don't have like 100 appraisals. Everything we've bought is kind of like, this is going to be a success, and it's a feeling as well as like putting down a load of figures on the paper. But I bought that building thinking, I think workspace will be a huge success in the Lakes, but there's a lot of workspace up there. So I thought, and I've done another scheme in the Lakes that was pioneering up there, that was a huge success. And I thought, well, actually, this isn't too far away. It's workspace, but it's too big a building. So we bought it. I sat on it for about a month when I was thinking, what should we do with this? And then did loads of research, spoke to loads of people, and had what are we missing in the Lakes? And this was a time really where we've come out of the EU. At the time up in the Lakes, before that, all the hotels, all the restaurants, all that tourist accommodation is served by staff that have come from Europe, and suddenly they've all left, and there's a shortage of people.
Yeah.
So all the hotels are looking for people further afield now to come and work up there, because everybody's turned all their places into holiday lets.
Okay.
So I think just from a monetary point of view, the first thing you do with the biscuit tin is turn it all into holiday accommodation, because that's what's going to make the most, and it's for tourists. But it didn't feel right to me, because actually, I looked at the hospitality sector and thought, we're missing place for all the staff to be living. So I thought, well, actually, if you're local, I've got loads of mates up there. Where do you live? And everyone gets pushed out because they can't afford the house, they can't afford a house, they can't afford accommodation. So not only have we not got the staff from the EU, but all the local people have been forced out because they've got nowhere to live, because everyone's turned into a holiday home. So I said, it doesn't sit right with me just to turn it into a holiday accommodation. Actually, let's create somewhere for local people to live. So I spent a long time going around different hotels and looking at their staff accommodation. And it real shocked me, the quality of what people being provided to live in. It's like, these are people that they're paying minimum wage, and let's provide them the cheapest place possible to live, and then we're going to complain that they treat it really badly.
Yeah.
And I just said, actually, in my opinion, we've got this all wrong. That actually, people are getting paid minimum wage, but we're treating it really bad because they're being treated really bad. So what we've done at this scheme, and I hope it works, because it is kind of it is pioneering. There's nothing else like this that I've seen, especially up in Cumbria. We've created on the top 2 floors, 24 bedrooms, but real nice. They're all en suite. They've got real nice kitchens to them. And we've created staff accommodation to help plug the gap, to create, for the hotels and restaurants for people to live and work up there. But we're treating people really well. We're trying to, because I think the knock-on effect of that, then people will treat it well, and people will enjoy coming to work in the Lake District, and that, in turn, will improve the standards of hotels and restaurants. And everyone knows if you go on holiday out there now, you can stay in nice places, but it's the staff that ultimately is the most important thing, and that's what there's a real shortage of there.
Yeah.
So we've seen a gap in the market, and we're not yet open. We're due to finish at the end of December. So I hope it's a success, and I hope people treat it well. And I hope that what our scheme does then is have a knock-on effect to all the other HMOs, in effect, is what they are.
And so raise your standards.
Raise your standards. Let's treat people well. And then let's see the standard of service, improve, and have a knock-on positive to the Lake District.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of that, because, you go out to the market for feedback, and everyone's like, pick the cheapest finishes, give everyone a big... And I thought, oh, that's awful. Let's treat people well, and let's improve it. So that's exciting, and that's the top 2 floors. And then the ground floor, we've got about... we did a new build on the side, so we've got about 6,000 square foot of office accommodation.
Okay.
And again, we've got separate entrances for them, but ultimately it's a staff accommodation and office scheme. And you think, I hope this is going to let, because again, we've done that real nice finishes, really high end. But yeah, we're due to finish in December, and 70% of the scheme is nearly let.
Right, oh
and,
wow.
And we're talking 10-year leases, which I never get in any of my buildings in Manchester. So
who's taken the space? Are you able to say?
Yeah, I'm not going to disclose them yet because they've not disclosed it. Okay. But linked with all my sporting thing, we've got sports brands going in there. We've got a mix of national businesses, which is amazing for the area, but also local businesses that have signed up, which is wonderful as well, because it's you're a financial advisor, you want to set up, you want to stay in the lakes, but it's chicken and egg. There's nowhere nice to base your business. So that's when you end up coming a bit further. You leave the lakes and go a bit further afield.
So this is a scheme very much with the sort of the economic prosperity of the area in mind, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You're trying to elevate the standards and provide a good quality product. There's a lot to credit this scheme, and I'm not surprised that you're proud of it. One thing that jumps out to me, though, is it sounds quite risky in many ways. So when you said that you buy buildings without necessarily a plan, I think that's great and ballsy to do that. And then you're trying something completely new. Do you see yourself as a risk taker?
I see it as a calculated risk. We did a similar scheme, for example, I'd done a scheme in Manchester in the city centre where we've built some townhouses. And when we did the townhouses, no one was building townhouses. So you'd say, that's a huge risk. Why are you building houses in the city centre? Yeah. No one else is. And we saw a gap in the market where actually, all the apartments, everything looks the same. You've got 550 square foot for a 1 bed, 850 for a 2 bed, minimum sizes, big glass doors. And, it was a risk creating something different because we created houses with 2 roof terraces. They were mega expensive. We've got huge hammocks for rooms, something completely different. So that's a risk because we've done something different, but it's a calculated risk because you've got a feeling it's going to be a success. And, that was, and, the testament to one in the lakes, we've already got hotels banging on our doors saying, please, can we take loads of the rooms? And we've not even gone out to market. That's just through word of mouth. So, yeah, you could say it's risky, but I'd say it's an educated risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're obviously someone who likes to do things differently. That's what your business is all about, isn't it? Does it frustrate you when you look at, some of the development going on in the northwest or across the north, how sort of formulaic it seems at times? Because that's we get comments on our articles criticising certain schemes for being boring, for being bland. Does that frustrate you? Or does that just make you happy because it just means that you can continue to kind of disrupt and do your thing and stand out?
Manchester's I'm so passionate about the city. I absolutely love Manchester. I've got charities going on in here. I love Manchester and I want all the best for it. And it's not a frustration, but while I'm always in my head, I'm saying, let's do stuff differently, because if we're just building the same as every other city, we're just homogenised in place. And actually the only way we're going to stand out as a city and be where everyone wants to live, everyone wants to talk about, everyone wants to go on holiday, is if we're creating things differently. So yeah, it can be frustrating sometimes when a developer comes in and this has worked in another place, let's build exactly the same as that city. Well, do you know what? That's not what us Mancunians are. Let's create some identity. So yeah, there's a balance. There's a balance to getting stuff built and moving the city forward.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that Sir Howard Bernstein was one of my friends, and I was, I learned so much from him. And there's a balance between creating alternative places plus getting the city forward and, and attracting different investors from all the outside the world and, how we make Manchester. So I feel like I've been very inspired by what he's done for the city and how he has driven us and, made us different to Birmingham, Leeds, which are also wonderful places, but stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also, so it's a balancing act, but there's also the kind of the harsh reality of viability as well, isn't there? And that, if you're doing things differently and taking risks like you are, that must be quite a daunting word, viability. How do you sort of get around that, especially schemes in the Lake District that are a completely new model? How have you navigated that?
I'd say I'm now about 8 years into the business, so I'd say year 1, 2 and 3 was hard, trying to get people on board and trying to show it, but you suddenly get a bit of track record, you get a case study, and being honest, the bigger your projects are, the more, not the more ballsy, but the more apartments you're building or the more houses you're building, what I've found is actually it's a lot easier to fund than when you're just going in for 1 or 2 houses, which we were doing initially.
Okay.
So track records being everything, and I just last year got a planning for a scheme on Deansgate where we got 52 apartments. Yeah. And I was amazed that when you're looking for over £10 million, everybody wants to fund you. But actually, when you're looking for £2 million, it's hard.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's move on to the second scheme we're going to talk about today. So the one you wish you had done. Now, people approach this in different ways. That can be one that someone else did and you really wish you'd been involved in it because it's a great project. Or it could be one that you thought was going to happen and then didn't. So
Yeah.
how have you approached it, and what scheme is the one that you wish you'd done?
Well, just looking backwards, I don't think I'm a person that ever looks back and like, oh, I wish I'd done that, I regret, because if I really want to do something, I always make it happen.
Okay.
So I'm like thinking in the air, like, right, what's a scheme that I didn't do? So I'm not devastated about it, because I know I'll do it if I actually really want to do it. But when I first set up at Watch This Space, the way I set the business up was by making money by creating a property co-workspace. So I took a lease of a building, and we created a community where there was myself as a developer, and there was a few other developers in there. FEC was one of the developers in there. That's where they set up their office. So we had as many developers as wanted to take a desk from me. But then we had one architect, one structural engineer, one M&E provider, and we created, in effect, the opportunity to have a bigger business and a bigger network by being in a shared community with other property people.
Mm-hmm.
So I always saw that as like a fantastic thing, especially for me. That's, you know, one of the main ways that I grew my brand and grew how I got into my projects. So fast forward, it's always in the back of my head what a great community that was. It's all about community for me. So I was buying a building in Castlefield, which was about 20,000 square foot, and it was in partnership with a big sports brand, more like a sports outlet.
Okay.
So we were buying the building, and it was 5 stories, and we were building a new bit next to it. And it excited me because it's got the community feeling and it's in the sports world, and I love both, you know. And what we were doing on that building is the ground floor and the first floor we were making money. So we were letting out the spaces to people like Adidas, Columbia, Falraven, all people that could pay and wanted to be in a sports environment. And then the next floor up from that, we were working with like entrepreneurs, startup sports companies, the likes of, you know, my friend at Through Dark, who was setting up an outdoor brand and would really benefit of the knowledge of being near these bigger companies to bounce off. And the top floor, I think we were kind of like having a gym and a yoga studio. And we were also working with the likes of taekwondo, you know, British cycling, to actually pull it all in together, because, you know, you look at what the success of us winning gold medals at the Olympics, you know, just talking about sport in general, and that's why I'm such an advocate for it. You know, British cycling and taekwondo are very close, and, you know, bouncing ideas off each other. So the idea, moving back to this sports hub, was it was a community not only of sports brands, but where all the sports headquarters, like, you know, I think it's still here now, Dodgeball,
right,
in the UK is based out of Manchester.
Oh wow, okay.
So like a place where they would come and collaborate and help grow sport in the UK. So I haven't done it, and that building didn't come off, but it was a great idea, and you know, hopefully it'll pull off in the future.
Why didn't it happen?
We couldn't get the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh right, so it's simple as that.
It was sold for residential.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And has it been converted now into residential?
No, it's still sitting there like as an empty building. So, you know, maybe one day it'll come back, but you know, I didn't want to flog a dead dog. Do you know what I mean? You keep going at somewhere, and, you know, if everyone's not on the same team, move on. You know, we've got enough other work that actually, if you can't get everyone on board to proceed with it, take a step back and they'll come back in the future.
Yeah, and the working title was House of Sport?
House of Sport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And did this idea never saw the light of day in terms of Place Northwest never reported it, for example?
No.
Okay, it's one that stayed on the drawing board pretty much.
Yeah, I've still got all the brochures and everything back in the office, you
wow.
know. So, it didn't take off, but, you know, off the back of that, you know, in some of our, we've got about 35 office occupiers that rent space off us. You know, I've got loads of connections from the sports world. So Adidas are one of our amazing occupiers. We've got Falraven are another occupier. We've got loads of really cool sports brands. So that building didn't take off, but, you know, the community is still thriving.
And it could still happen, you know,
Absolutely.
if another building comes up. So
if I want something to happen, it'll happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, watch this space, as they say. Brilliant. Okay, so that's the one that hasn't happened yet, but could still happen. What's the dream scheme? So this can be one that you can let your imagination run wild. So the one scheme that you would love to do that's not yet been done by anyone, and it may not have even been thought about. So, you know, reimagining Piccadilly Gardens has definitely been thought about, and it's been a long time in gestation. You know, converting...
And you don't want to flog a dead dog, will it happen?
Absolutely. Well, I'm reliably informed that we'll have more news before the end of the year on Piccadilly Gardens, but we'll see. You know, converting the Sagrada Familia into apartments, for example.
Okay.
What's your dream scheme?
I think I'm just going to have to stick down the sports and property line.
Why not? It's been the theme that's driven the podcast, so that's fine.
I'd say it was House of Sport, but I'm going to come up with a new scheme. So as well as the property business that Watch This Space, at my heart, you know, alongside my husband, we've got a company called WAC2, and we work with England Netball, Man City Ladies, Man United, and we take sports teams up to the Lake District and put them through crazy challenges, and it's all about health and well-being. And wouldn't it be amazing to create like a retreat? You know, a retreat for professional sports teams and athletes, and really help drive the standard of sports in the UK.
Oh, very cool.
I feel like that would be, you know, an amazing... And I've worked... You know, prior to, you know, at university, a lot of my side jobs were like working in clothing and sports and working with... I remember one of my jobs was to kit out the New Zealand rugby team. You know, like what's a cooler job than that?
Yeah, yeah.
So creating like a place of excellence.
Okay. So a big campus with massive...
A Loughborough, but for, you know, not the next level, because Loughborough is obviously absolutely insane in terms of facilities, but one that's actually not just looking at... You know, you'd have football pitches there, you'd have netball courts there, you'd have all the sports facilities, you'd have the accommodation, but you'd also have the mental well-being aspect for athletes. You know, the open water swimming, you know, the yoga, you know, the you know, for your mind, you know.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah,
so it would
maybe
be
one day.
The Loughborough Lakes, or the lakes version of Loughborough.
Or Manchester.
Or Manchester.
I'm open.
Okay.
I like them both equally.
And so you mentioned that you get... So did Manchester United, you said, you've done activities with them? I'm just imagining...
Yeah.
I'm just imagining Rasmus Højlund doing monkey bars.
It's actually more the youth squads.
Okay.
The youth squads, and the ladies' first teams have been up as well.
Okay.
And it's all about taking them out of the clubs, and actually England cricket, the ladies, there's the first team. They're amazing. They just come up recently. And but their captain did this. She actually did a podcast, and she did it about WAC2.
Oh, right.
And it was actually all about... She was in this freezing cold lake for 4 minutes freezing, and she had to get her real head into the game, you know, to be that cold for that long. And how she related it about when she went on to the Ashes is that she was stepping out onto the field with all this pressure, and the way she had to get her mind right, she had to think about when she related it back to when she was in that freezing cold water and what she felt like, and how she didn't want to be there, and her heart was going like mad, panicking. And she thought, I've been in this situation before, and I've had to calm myself down. And and it was an amazing...
That is amazing.
Relating. Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah. So this link, property and sport, obviously there's a big link there, and you've spoken about it in a couple of your schemes. There's a big project ongoing at the moment. I wonder if you have a view on it. So the plan to redevelop Old Trafford.
Yeah.
And use it as a catalyst for the wider regeneration of the area. You know, as someone who is interested in property and interested in sport, that must be of interest to you. What's the sort of the opportunity there?
The thing with Old Trafford is, you know, I'm a big Red, so I'm a big Man United fan, and you can see how far behind we are. All you have to do is go into City. I don't know if you've ever been into City. It is absolutely incredible. You know, the quality of the youth pitches, what they do for the ladies. And you know, Man United has never ever caught up, and as a result, you can actually see straight off what the effect it's had on the results of the team. So, you know, Man United needs a huge overhaul and it'll come, you know, and it's just a shame it's taken so long to come. But yeah, you know, City's light years ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. So you're picturing something similar to the Etihad campus over there at Old Trafford. That would be the dream.
The Etihad is a centre of excellence. You know, and you know what's so incredible about the Etihad is not only the absolutely all about the players, all about the training, and you know every single moment of their journey. But you know, you go there as a fan, and you're fully looked after. There's such a community spirit there. It's so great for it's great for kids. It's a great family day out. You know, there's fireworks before the show, which you know there's a bit of that at Old Trafford. But they've thought about everything. You know, the food, the drinks, and the community for the players, but also for the club. You know, it's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of either team.
Are you not? No.
I'm a Plymouth fan for my
Okay.
sins, but I have been to both grounds recently, and you're right, it's poles apart in terms of the experience.
Yeah.
So again, watch this space for the exciting plans around Old Trafford. But for now, I think we've run out of time. But I've had a fantastic time chatting with you, Michelle. Thank you for scheming with me.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much for listening at home. Please do join us again for another episode of the Scheming Podcast.
This podcast is brought to you in association with VM Finance. VM Finance funds development and investment opportunities for residential, commercial and mixed-use properties and provides tailored support and innovative financing solutions to help you realise your vision and achieve your goals. To find out more about VM Finance, visit their website vmfinanceltd.com.